Setting up meeting for YouTube Live. Okay. All right. We are on. We are live. Yay. Setting up meeting for YouTube Live. Okay. Oh, this is weird. I'm hearing my echo. Hang on, let me mute. Okay. All right, so I'm really excited about our chat today. The rise of Gen Z, ageism, activism, and debunking the teen stereotype. So I'm just gonna dive right in. I'll just give a little intro and then I'll ask you your first question. Lazy, dramatic, self-involved, misguided, too young, phone obsessed. These are typical adjectives adults use to describe teenagers. When I think of teens today, when I think of Gen Z, I think proactive and motivated, not lazy, passionate and enthusiastic, not dramatic, altruistic, not self-involved, focused and informed, not misguided, self-reflective, adaptive, and open to growth, not too young. And to Gen Z, a smartphone can be a tool for change. Hi, I'm O'Donnell, and I'm a fervent teen ally. Oh, here's Mariah, yay. I'm a fervent teen ally and the creator and manager of the Teen Revolution Network. I'll be moderating today's discussion. Before I continue, I wanted to thank Community X for inviting us to add today's discussion to their Changemaker Forum program. You may have heard of these teens: Greta Thunberg, a Swedish climate change activist; Malala Yousafzai from Pakistan, who fights for girls' education; Emma Gonzalez, who led a gun control movement after a school shooting in Parkland, Florida; or more recently, Avi Shiftman, a high schooler from my home state of Washington, who created the COVID data tracker website that's used by leading health experts. There are thousands of Gen Zers who are doing good for the world right under our noses. And I'm so honored to introduce a few of those Gen Zers today, the panelists. So in no particular order, we have Kat Lau and her partner Anya, who couldn't make it today. They co-founded the Colorization Collective in response to the racial inequities they witnessed in the art world. Their international organization supports teen artists of color through several initiatives. And then we have Trisha Beyer, who's the founder and CEO of the Art Shine Foundation, which she created as a way to invite teens to get involved in artivism. The mission of her foundation is to use artwork to make a positive difference in the world. And next we have Nick Kimball, who is an entrepreneur and civic leader. He currently works at Civic Wave and Edison Civic Change, advocating for civic education in the US schools, and activism work, including addressing systemic political issues. And then we have Sid Walter, who is the creator and host of Teeny podcast, T-E-N-Y. She's trying to make sense of the world through conversation while acknowledging her privileges. The idea to start a podcast resulted from noticing a lack of education among peers in the public school system. And last but not least, we have Mariah Isabella, who is, welcome Mariah, who is the founder and executive director of Quarantines Magazine, or Quarantines Mag. What started as a memorabilia for quarantine quickly grew popular with teens worldwide, and Quarantines Mag transformed into a creative lifestyle print magazine with a focus on service and activism. Thank you all for being here. So this afternoon, I'd like to start the discussion off by talking about the adultism our panelists face as teens in our society. Then we'll talk about Gen Z activism. I'll ask all of you what unique qualities Gen Z has and how they play a role in advancing social progress. And finally, with the election around the corner, I want to end with a conversation about the importance of youth civic engagement and the youth vote. So, and we can go in the order that you introduce yourselves just to keep it easy. But if you can share with me some experiences that you've had with ageism or youth oppression in your life in general, and or in your community work?
I think something that's happened, sorry, my family's at home and my dog's very cute. Something that I think most teens kind of encounter when they look into activism and advocating for what they believe in is just dismissal and people thinking that they don't have stakes or the correct knowledge to properly advocate for the cause that they are passionate about or causes that they believe in. And so something that we've found just has kind of been like, oh, dismissal, not taking us seriously. But on the same vein, there's been a really great network, Teen Takes, who's our fiscal sponsor, of adults who just kind of give us the spotlight, and it's very collaborative. So on one end, a lot of people I find are super dismissal and don't really care to give time to teen voices or younger voices. And that's one of the issues that we've found to face, but we've been lucky that we haven't faced it often.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
I think that, there's a pretty dominant divide between adults and teens right now. When we go to present some of our viewpoints and opinions, as Catherine was saying, we face dismissal. But also I think, they think that we don't have enough experience and that we are talking without researching, or that we are saying certain things without actually knowing the subject, which I can see how that would be, a valid viewpoint. But I also think that, teens and adults need to collaborate way more because we're coming from a different generation. We have different priorities. Our globe, our world, all of this is in our hands. We have to solve these problems of not only our generation, but future generations. So I think it would be really beautiful if those two age groups, joined forces, because we could do so many amazing things. And I think there need to be more people like Odani who support us and allow our voices to be heard in settings like this. I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hitting on Trisha's point for a bit, it's definitely the same, at least from my experience. The number one thing that I think is the biggest advantage for a lot of teens is the ability to equip themselves with knowledge. Having the phone, so many different resources makes it much easier for us to retain information in regards to our older past generations, as I'll say. But the biggest challenge that's always going to be there is, are we going to work together? And that's always going to be the biggest thing, is if we're going to come together as one instead of being divided on different views. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I think everyone in this call, all the viewers at home, we want the best for ourselves, the people around us, and for a long life, a longevity. And I think after we understand that point, it's much easier going further for us to connect the divide between the past generation and the younger generation.
I think one of the biggest things that I've faced is the ability for help when you're a teen and you're trying to organize or do something positive and you want to make a positive change. Not a lot of people believe your idea or believe that you'll stick with it. They think that you're going to drop it off. It's just for fun. And sometimes it can be both fun and really super productive, but getting that help and getting the resources you need is easy because we have a phone. But what if it's external help? What if we need organizing experience and we don't have that? So finding those people who are teen activists and teen leaders in the older generations that will help support us and lead our voices. But I think it's also important to say that teens, we do also kind of not pick on each other, but we have some adultist ways where we will think that another teen's ideas aren't valid just because of their age. I certainly am guilty of doing that before. And I know that it's not always something that we think about, but it is important to note that we all pick on each other in some sense, and we all criticize each other's work either because of judgment or comparison, and we just want to make ourselves feel better. But yeah, I think those are some of the main ways that I've experienced it personally.
Mariah?
Well, first of all, I think you put that, it was very well said and very true, because no matter how much we would like to, say that adults and the past generations really do scrutinize us and, TikToker generation sort of like jokes and stuff, we really do need to do a better job of just supporting each other and kind of getting out of like this cancel culture kind of fad that we're going through right now. I know I said cancel culture, but that's literally the culture that we have right now. And I think the biggest thing is like through running a magazine, like the biggest issues that I think I have like with trying to prove or trying to help change something through activism is that Instagram posts can only do so much, or resharing, retweeting, reposting can only do so much, to a point where if you call yourself something like, and this has happened like even from my own parents, where they will challenge me and say, oh well, you really say you're into this, you're passionate about filmmaking, so where are your films? Like, oh, you talk about it, but where are you guys doing it, And I think that's the biggest thing, and the difference of our generations, is that since we're so acclimated to doing everything on technology and social media and everything, it's really hard for past generations to understand that's basically the new era that we're running into. But I think that it's, although can be a little bit discouraging and toxic, that it's also very good to have those opposing opinions or perspectives, because it helps us to, like my own parents say, like get out of the idealism and the online sort of activism and to actually go out and do something and make real change happen.
Thank you. Yeah, the word that came to mind was that I recently saw was slacktivism. The idea that like, oh, it's activism, I'm sharing this post, It's like, well, I mean, it does make a difference, but yeah, you got to go a little farther than that to make change. Thank you for sharing all of that. So I wanted to talk about who is Gen Z. According to the Pew Research Center, Gen Z are people who were born from 1997 to 2012. I've also seen 1996, so I don't know how they determine that. Members of Gen Z are more racially and ethnically diverse than any previous generation, and they are on track to be the most well-educated generation yet. Josh Miller, who is a member of Gen Z and the director of Gen Z Studies at XYZ University, said, Generation Z marks the last generation in US history where a majority of the population is white, which I'm sure that blows a lot of people's minds, but it's definitely heading in that direction. He also said the chaos and unrest in our political system has inspired us to want to get involved and make a difference. And it makes sense that activism is inherent to your generation. You were raised in the wake of 9/11, and among a flurry of crises like climate, the disparity in economic and income equality, school shootings, now COVID, the pandemic, and police brutality, the Black Lives Matter movement. And like you have been saying, a key piece to Gen Z activism is that you're digital natives. 95% of Gen Zers have smartphones, but what are you doing with them? Most adults would probably say that you're wasting your time on entertainment, games. Yes, they are used for your social lives, but they also are used as a resource for information and as a tool for change. For example, the Community X Activism app enables you to connect, organize, and assemble with activists around the world who share similar causes. Their mission is to unite humanity and mobilize the world. So I am wondering from you, Gen Zers, what unique qualities does Gen Z have to offer society? And how is Gen Z contributing to social progress? Shall we just go in the same order, or you can jump in? Did you want to start, Trisha? Or no, Kat?
If no one else has something, I'll try to put together the half-formed thoughts in my head into something coherent.
If anyone wants to jump in, please do. Okay, Mariah.
Okay, so I love this question, and it's so crazy to me because this past week, well, actually, like all of September, really, I've really been overwhelmed with online school as well as trying to maintain like this presence on social media. And although it didn't start off to be something of like gaining more followers and all that, I have started to slip into like I guess, the instant gratification part of social media, where if my magazine is not growing, then my attitude and my like emotions also stop like feeling that high, you know? So this question actually I've been asking myself for all of September, and I've come to the conclusion that like, well, before I say the conclusion, I read an article on, I believe it was the New Yorker, about asking the question of what do you want to be when you grow up to children, and how it's actually a toxic thing and it like stunts growth. And that to me was crazy because all I ever think about is, oh, when I grow up I want to do this. But now in our generation, it's really changed to like, you can do that right now. You don't have to wait till you grow up. And we're seeing all these people rise up in the midst of a pandemic, leading our own generation and leading all the other population of America into, whether it's voting or activism or any of those things. But I had to ask myself the question of who am I, and like, what does Gen Z, what does that label even mean to myself? Like, am I letting that label control me? Who do I want to be in the sea of this generation? What do I want to bring out and help it grow to be? And I just really thought about like the beauty of not having the answer. And I think that's really what our generation is that we don't have the answer, because for the first time, I think out of every generation, we're able to see the mistakes or the trailblazing that has ended up making terrible forest fires, or all that basically past mistakes and traumas and everything that have really taken root into our country. And I think that's basically what Gen Z is that we are here to pull out all those roots. And no matter how it happens and everything, we're not, I guess, labeled as anything. We don't know what we want to grow up to be, because we are that already. We are the change, and we are like Teen Revolution Network. We are the revolution, and like we're literally Z, the very end of the alphabet. So like we need to take that to heart, I think, a little bit more in knowing our role in just what exactly we, I guess, represent for our own children, what world we want to leave to them. And gosh, it's been such a roller coaster of like existential crises for myself all through quarantine. But yeah, so that's what makes me proud to be part of Gen Z, is that we don't have the answers, but it's okay because we are the answer in a sort of way. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's what I've come to the conclusion of, and I'm very proud to be a part of this generation.
Awesome. Yeah, I love everything that you said. It totally makes sense. I want to open the floor up to, I don't want to be talking about it. I want you guys to be talking about it, even though I have comments in my head. But anybody have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. Oh, Trisha, do you want to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I kind of agree more with what Maria said. I think Gen Z, in terms of other generations, were more equipped with the tools to succeed. I think that number one tool has to be technology. You know, technology makes us heard in every single aspect and facet. You know, it's remarkable even to be on a call like this with people part of the West Coast, you know, the East Coast. You know, if we compare this back to the 60s, the 70s, this wouldn't have been able to be a reality. And just having just such simple tools such as Wi-Fi, and as you brought up the statistic before, 95% of Gen Z have smartphones. You know, just having a smartphone is really all you need to get started. You don't need to have a massive media team or anything like that. You just need to post things that are educated, informed, and they're able to spread the knowledge that way to so many other people. And that's probably the most beautiful thing about Gen Z, is to do anything that you truly want to do. It can start off very simple, and it starts off with tools you already have. I think a lot of the answers that we're looking for are already within us. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about Gen Z.
Awesome. Trisha?
Yes, if I could describe Gen Z in 3 words, it would probably be interconnected, determined, and creative. I think what sets our generation apart from any other generation in the past is that we're very progressive, we're broad-minded, we're open and diverse. There are so many qualities about us that are so prominent that just haven't existed in the past or haven't been, as evident in the past. And I think the best thing about this is that, there are so many issues in the world right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic, forest fires, climate change, racial inequity, gender inequality. But I think instead of being scared of these challenges, where all of us together collectively want to change these aspects of our society today to improve people's lives, not only our lives, but the lives of generations to come. And I think that's really amazing. And then touching on the technology aspect of it, I know you were mentioning stuff about how, adults, when they see us with smartphones, they think it's for entertainment, for games, whatnot. And I think that that's a misconception that shouldn't exist, because right now technology is such a change maker in our lives, and it's so important to use it to our advantage. A quick personal example is ASF. I built a team of people from 8 countries, basically entirely off of Instagram. If I didn't have that tool, if I didn't have technology, I wouldn't even know these people existed. And we wouldn't be able to make the change that we're making today across several states and several countries. And I think that utilizing that tool is something that we're all learning, and we're using it to our advantage to make change and use our creativity to mitigate some of the pressing social issues that are kind of plaguing our lives right now.
If
Yes,
really
absolutely.
quick, I would love to bring it back to what Mariah said. I think that's how you say your name. But I've always heard the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I've heard this new question is, what change do you want to make? Which I think just resonates so strongly with all of Gen Z, because we are change makers and we are making change, and we all just we're moving the same direction, but all just very different ways. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, is that we're all growing towards a direction, and how we do it is so different. Like, looking at all these people here, we all have such different stories and such different backgrounds. We're all fighting for one thing, and that's our lives and our future generation lives and the lives of everyone right now. And I think I'm very proud to be a part of Gen Z.
As you should be. I want to be a part of Gen Z. Kat, did you want to add anything?
Sure. I'll second everything that everyone else has said. It's all been very profound. I find that our generation seems to be very aware in terms of connections and networking, and how creating change isn't necessarily doing something immediate where you'll see, results the next day. It's often, well, maybe not often, but a lot of the times it is just creating like the foundation for something and for someone to kind of pick it up after you. I looked it up. It looks like the next generation after us is called Generation Alpha, which crazy name, kind of vibing with it, a bit jealous, not gonna lie. But it's like, I have the Colorization Collective, but Anya and I are already thinking about our line of succession and how we're going to kind of an adult board form that and be a part of that, but still not be actually running it once we're not teenagers anymore, which is kind of a scary thing to think about. And also how I think our generation's activism isn't necessarily performative. You know, I'm not doing this for clout or for my college apps or for like someone else's view of me or for someone else's approval. Like, I do this because it's something that I really care about, and it's something that I've been personally impacted with, and I hope that people after me won't have to face the same, you know, barriers that I've had in the performing arts world.
Nice. Thank you, everyone. I agree with everything that you've said. It's really exciting to hear all of you talk about all of this. So the last part of our discussion is I wanted to talk about the youth vote. There's an election coming up. I don't know if you are aware. So I have some more information from the Pew Research Center. Has a lot of Gen Z information. And they found that 1 in 10 eligible voters in the 2020 electorate are from Gen Z. More than 23 million eligible Gen Z voters this year, which is about 16 million more than in the 2016 election. I also heard that 6% of teens were taught how to register to vote in school. And the impact of Gen Zers have on the election will depend a large part on voter turnout. So why is it so important to mobilize youth to vote? What is at stake for Gen Z? And what would you tell your peers who think their voice doesn't matter or that they don't know enough about politics? We can take a minute those are big questions. So let it percolate. But if anyone wants to start, just dive right in.
Well, I would say that you don't really need to know a lot about politics. Currently, I'm working on a politician's campaign at my local level, and I did not know anything about politics. And yet I joined, I learned a lot, and I've gotten a lot of good ideas on the table, and they've all been accepted. So it's just, you have to take that step, and this step is in the right direction. Everything is at stake. If you're questioning what's at stake, it's everything. From healthcare to rights, like human rights, like things that we all deserve are at stake, which they shouldn't be. And this election is crucial. No matter who you are, this is going to affect you. And maybe you don't know what it's going to look like, but it will look scary if you don't help out in the election, and you can help out simply by voting. It is pretty simple, and if you need any help, they have it all online. There are so many resources out there, and that's why the internet is so amazing, because it can help you register to vote. You can have someone call you in your native language so that you can understand what is happening. There are so many resources, and your vote most definitely counts. Last year, I don't remember the numbers, but Hillary lost by just a couple votes, like 5 or 6. I don't really remember. But she lost because there wasn't that many more votes. So every single vote counts. And you can think it like, what if nobody voted? Then there would be no votes, you know? So we have to start from somewhere. So please vote. And you can register to vote in some states. I think Washington especially. When you're 16, you can pre-register. So very important information.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll quickly jump in. I might have things to say later. I am not part of the 1 in 10. I'm 17. I missed it by like half a year, which I'm really upset about, but I am pre-registered. Please go do that if you have not. You get a cute little sticker, but it's just a really good thing to be involved with. I mean, voting is activism for the populace. It's for everyone, and it's there so everyone can have their voice heard. Like, I think in the last election, 58% of eligible voters actually did, which is not a very good percentage. That is failing in school. And it should be a lot higher, because these, as Sid said, these are issues that are going to affect every aspect of every individual's life. I was watching a Try Guys video on my phone earlier, and Zach compared an election, voting not as marriage, but as public transportation. You're taking a bus, and if you can't find a bus or a candidate that's going to get you everything you want and is going to get you exactly where you need to be, you take the bus that takes you closest. I'm going to try to stay out of the politics of it. Keith says a lot of things about President Trump that I personally agree with after, but I will not repeat them here. But it really is, it's like you're looking out for yourself, you're looking out for your children or, whoever comes after you, but you're also looking out for everyone around you. So if you're not voting for yourself because you don't like either of the candidates, you don't know what to do, then vote for the people around you who are going to need things like more universal access to healthcare, education, or people, marginalized demographics who don't have the same rights that you do. If you're not voting for yourself, at the very least, please vote for them and vote for the people like me who can't vote this year.
Thank you. Yeah.
I definitely second what both Sid and Catherine said. I'm also 17, so I'm not eligible to vote, but this is an issue I'm very passionate about. I think not voting can't be attributed to not having enough information. It can be attributed to ignorance and people just not wanting to, use their voices and their votes to support underprivileged communities and the LGBTQ plus community and other communities that these policies really affect their lives on a day-to-day basis. So I think that everyone should vote who's able to, because it's a vote for not only your life, but the lives of so many other people. I would tell any peers that, if they were tentative on voting, saying that they didn't have enough information, I would say, well, here's what you have to know. Politics affects every single aspect of everyone's lives, and that's all you need to know. So you should vote. And if someone is still not sure about, which candidate is going to enact which policies, they should at least do a bit of research. I think that's the minimum, because it affects everyone in this country, even if you're not underprivileged or in those marginalized populations, it affects you too. So I think that not only teens, but everyone should keep that in mind and vote for everyone's lives.
Absolutely. Nick or Mariah?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what's been said. I think voting definitely goes even deeper than the presidential level. I see it as even going more deeper to your own communities, because as Trisha kind of hit on a bit before, it's about helping other people, right? So some of the issues that you may face in your community or you may face personally, thousands of other people also feel the exact same way. And if you understand how crucial that one vote is to all those thousands of people, it shows that you have more of a purpose in our democracy than you believe you do. And I think for me, voting, I'm actually, as this group, I'm actually fortunate enough I am able to vote, so lucky me. But the importance of voting was thus that so many people died for this ability that we have, especially if you're a woman or a minority in the US, this wasn't a right that was given to all people. It's only a gift to mostly Caucasian white men. So just to be able to say that I have this right and to have a privilege that my grandparents died for, it just gives a different type of resonation with me and a different type of importance. So I think for a lot of people, especially teens that don't think their vote matters, it's like these same feelings and doubts that you have, just understand that they're not so different from other kids in a different area than you. And that same understanding, the same type of fear you may have, you can actually find a solution for it. And that solution, a part of it, is with your vote. And that'd be the number one thing I'd probably tell to someone my age.
Right on.
I would definitely have to agree with you, Nick. It goes so much farther than just a candidate or who's tweeting what and all these kind of superficial things that we tend to fixate on, or like the smallest little things that we want to pick out in whoever's running for whatever high position for our country. But actually in school, we've been learning about more of like the philosophy behind voting and behind what goes on in this country. And there's something that Milton Friedman, who's a philosopher about like free enterprise and capitalism, talks about social responsibility and how it doesn't really exist. And I really, as much as like, these people are deemed philosophers, I would have to disagree that social responsibility, it does exist. And we each hold this responsibility for somebody else that no matter what skin color, no matter what background that we've come from, everything is privilege. Us living in America solely being able to argue about who to vote for is a privilege because there's people right now, especially in Armenia, that 3 generations are having to go to war based off of stuff that's happened in the past of genocide and it coming back up, or the concentration camps in China. Those people don't have choices to vote and to stay out of that situation. But we do, and we can't let that privilege and that opportunity go to waste because of bad blood or because we're not educated. Like I say, ignorance breeds injustice. And that's basically the biggest thing going on is that we're continuing to pretend that we're blind to all these things happening in our own country just because it makes us uncomfortable and we don't want to confront all these things that are happening. And that also has to do with corporations. I mean, like, the people that are in like the 1 percentile got, I think it was, don't quote me on this, but I think it was about 100 million or more like richer during the pandemic, while there was people on stimulus checks who've been waiting and people getting evicted and stuff like that happening, losing their jobs. But it really goes down to who exactly we want to vote for, and that's not out of our mouths, and it's not based on a candidate. We're voting for the people who didn't have a choice in the very back end of our country's beginnings, the people that were put in the fields to work and are still put in the fields to work. Like, there's so many migrant workers in fields right now who are picking our berries for us, and we just pick up carton, go home, that's it. Those people are working there for 20 hours picking berries for us with literally the smallest percentage of pay, and they probably put in more labor hours than we do in a whole year. And I just think it's so incredibly important that we don't lose sight of what exactly we want to build as a population for our country. We don't want to continue leaving our generations with less and less of a humane society or even a clean earth. Like, our earth is all we got, basically. And I think it's just time that we recognize that without any bias or anything, I'm a Democrat and my whole entire family is a Democrat, which means I must stay Democratic, or I'm a Republican, my whole family's Republican, so I must stay Republican, and all those things that we really tend to fixate on. And I'm very, very talkative about this, and I can go on more, but that's pretty much the thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Arpit Ranasaria, sorry if I completely butchered your name, on YouTube wrote, being an idealist, I also agree that social responsibility exists and is super important. Too often we don't accept our social responsibility and choose to stay ignorant. So, and with 2 minutes left, is there anything else that anybody wanted to add?
I'd just like to add that I think human rights and climate change, these are not political issues. These are human issues that must be tackled regardless of someone's political viewpoints. Mariah was talking about this too, how we need to stop fixating on what our family tells us and what society tells us, and do what's good for the common good of the people and our environment.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of educating yourself, if you're seeking information about the current election, how to register, pre-register, if you want to make a voting plan, there are many, many resources, but a few, iwillvote.com the Gen Zine, which is a publication dedicated to addressing contemporary issues through the lens of Generation Z. And they have an election guidebook, The Divided States of America. I love that title. And then Coalition Z, which is a youth-led policy-focused organization connecting Gen Z with government. I also encourage you to reach out to any of the panelists here today. I'm putting you on the spot, who are active community leaders. And I'm sure they'd be happy to help you learn about how you came to start your work and just activism work in general. In closing, I urge older generations to invite Gen Z to participate in public discourse and decision-making. As Gen Z gets older, so too will their political clout. Just wants that to sink in. We all can benefit from the power of Gen Z. You all are an authority on technology and social media. You have the willingness to have difficult conversations and a passion to better the world, not just for yourselves and your friends and your family, but for the world, as all of you have said. Thank you so much, Trisha, Sid, Nick, Kat, Mariah, for your time today. I appreciate the work that you do. You are inspiring and give me so much hope for our country and for our world. I'm getting all emotional. I hope that older generations catch on soon and create more space where your voices can be heard. So yes, thank you. Is there any last comments or thoughts that you have before we close?
Very quickly, your vote doesn't end on November 3rd. It continues for however long that position is. So make sure you're thinking about the longevity of the race, not the short term. We're thinking about a marathon, and this will affect generations and generations, whatever this president or whatever your local election happens, like whatever policy they make will affect everyone. So it doesn't end on November 3rd.
Nice. Yeah. Great reminder. All right. Well, thank you again. I know that you're all really super busy. So yeah, thanks. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or ideas or whatever. And have a wonderful evening or night wherever you are.
Thank you so much, Odani. It was
Thank you.
a pleasure speaking to you.
Yay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
For
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you. Okay. Have a good night, everyone.